their devices. They're always wanting to use other things, not just sitting here, right, staring at this screen. So this one gives them an opportunity, whether they're using their iPad, they're using their phone, whatever it is that they're using, because you're looking for valid answers. And it's okay, right? In life, they're going to be using those resources. So giving them opportunities to do that, to pick which ones will actually be valid or actually be purposeful is really important. So that's a good one too.
Jeannie, there's a question in the chat. How do you share questions with students while they're in breakout rooms so that they can refer back to it in case they forget something you said in the main group? Idea for that?
Like for Outburst or just questions in general, you could, if you're looking for things for the game specifically, I would share it with them before they leave out. Or you can share it with them using GoGuardian. With GoGuardian, you can share it with individual students or groups of students, and you can push that information out to them. You could also keep the chat open to let the students chat with you. You can communicate them with email through Google Classroom. Kind of depends on the structure, I think, of your room. I'm not sure if that was what you were asking in reference to about questions. So let me know in the chat if not, and I will definitely circle back around to that. Taboo is that last one. This is the bonus one, right? So this one could be a logistical challenge. So Taboo, the game in general, you give the person presenting a word that they want their group to say, and you give them a list of words that they cannot say. So for an example, the presenter might want their group to say x-axis, but in giving clues for that, they cannot say graph, line, or point, right? So things like that. Another example might be maybe they're presenting to get their group to say or to guess Pythagorean theorem, but they're not allowed to say a squared, b squared, c squared, plus equals triangle, like whatever you want to put actually on that list. So here's the logistical challenge. The person presenting needs all of that information. And so does the opposing team, because the opposing team's kind of the judges, right? Did they do it appropriately? Did they actually get it? While not sending it to the people who are guessing. Now, GoGuardian works really well for that. You could actually email it to them individually, but that would take a lot of pre-planning to get all of those groups set together. So depending on how you have your classroom set up, this one could be a little bit challenging logistically, but it's still a good one to think about. Were there any other questions about those, just to kind of get our thoughts rolling? Okay, so we're going to actually go into some breakout rooms. I'm going to give you guys some time to work with each other and talk to each other, whether it be these games that kind of have sparked some ideas for you, or maybe something that you've already done with your class that worked really well that you would like to share. We're going to do breakout rooms a little bit differently than Google Breakout. So what we're going to do, there is a document here, and I will link it in the chat as well. And you will first go to this sheet, and you will place your name under one of the rooms. So you'll see room 1, room 2, room 3, and so on. And we don't want more than 4 people per room, just to keep the conversation time down a little bit smaller. And once you've put your name under that room, if you'll click on the room name, so room 1, for example, it will actually take you to a link to a whole separate Meet code, a whole separate Meet room. So you're going to have 2 tabs open in Meet. So you'll mute yourself on this one so that we can still talk to you. So when we're ready to come back, we can announce to come back rather than just slinging you right back out of those breakout rooms. But we can actually talk to you about it and say, hey, go ahead and finish up your conversations and then come on back. So you'll go to the sheet, put your name on a room, please no more than 4 per room. Go ahead and click on the room. It'll take you to a new Meet link. And in that new Meet link, then you can have conversations with your group members. And we're going to give you about 8 minutes, let's just say. And we'll bring you back after about 8 minutes and we'll share out a couple of these great ideas. So we just want to take some time to share ideas. If you have any questions, we will be here still in this main room. So feel free to pop any questions you have in the chat and we'll be happy to help you out. So we'll see you back in about 8-ish minutes. Okay, that is our 8 minutes. If you could go ahead, finish up your conversations and come on back into this main room, please. We will move forward. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to share with each other. I know that it's a little bit different doing breakout rooms in this way, but it gives a couple of things. I can still see you guys that left your video on. I can still see you in this main room. So it's really fun to see the enthusiasm and all the stuff going on and things like that. That's just kind of a fun perspective from the presenter side. What I'd like to do is get somebody to share one thing that you've heard so far today that you're excited to try in your classroom. And it can be something that you heard from someone else, something that you read about today, some activity or game that you're excited to try. And you can take yourself off mute to share that, or you can even pop it in the chat. Something you're excited about.
I apologize, I don't remember her name, but our breakout room, someone was talking about how they do breakout rooms and then they have those groups on their own Jamboard or on a specific slide of a Jamboard. And that way you can see the students as they're collaborating on that Jamboard to answer a question or whatever it is, but you don't have to be actively in the call listening to every word that they're saying, but there's still some accountability.
That's great. That's a great perspective. Thank you for sharing that one. David said he wants to try Nearpod and quizzes. Yeah, quizzes. I've used quizzes before. That's actually pretty cool. Anyone else before we move on to the next one? Playing categories in class. That would be a great one too. Absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to pass this over to Teresa, and she is going to give us our next piece.
All right. So in one of those mathematical conversations that Carla referred to earlier, a teacher from Cibola named Jessica Mandel, I'm not sure how to say her last name, was sharing with us one of her successes was escape rooms and her experience with escape rooms using Google Forms with her students and how much her kids were enjoying them. And so we kind of had some conversations and we thought that would be a great one to share because our idea in doing this was looking cross content as well as cross grade level. So obviously you can try these escape rooms. You can put as little or as much reading. The stories can be made up. She talked about how her students, she's actually encouraging her students to help her create the stories to go with the escape rooms, which is super cool to kind of get them invited that way. So I posed the question to my 7th grade son, and so you'll see that Guardians of the Galaxy is the storyline that we chose to create our escape room from. This is all done using Google Slides, or Google Forms, excuse me, and the settings that are already available in Google Forms. So this is nothing you don't already have access to. It's just a matter of learning which buttons to turn on and the different multiple forms of questions. There's 2 links in this slide. The first one is the Guardians of the Galaxy escape room that we are going to actually play with a little bit in your breakout rooms now. In just a minute. And Jeannie also posted that link in the chat. And the other link is a blank template. So after I created the escape room that we're going to play with today, I went through and deleted all of my pictures and storylines and inputted things like, insert picture here, describe the next setting where you're going here, to try and make it easier for you guys to do that. So the question was just asked, the escape room. So in a real escape room, like if any of you have been to them, you go to this place and you're kind of getting locked in, and you have to create challenges in order to escape from the room. So obviously we can't do that with our kids. I don't even know if we can do it in real right now because of everything going on. So this is a form that what happens is you're going to work through it. There'll be a question and you can't move on until you answer the question or complete the challenge. So this form that you're going to see here in just a second comes from 7th grade illustrative math. I took the questions in one of the lessons and just inputted them into the form in a Google form. They're the same types of questions. So I didn't change numbers. I didn't change anything. They come straight from the lesson. So instead of just presenting the lesson from the student workbook, this might be another alternative. What I would do if I was doing this in a class is I would, in my student groups, I would send one person in the group the actual form, so only one person can fill it in. And then I would PDF the escape room form for the other students so they can read it and follow along, but only one student has access to filling it in. And the reason for that is one of the experience Jessica shared with us is the possibility of you have a group of 5 and all 5 are just putting in answers and they're not collaborating or discussing, just trying to get past and finish it. So if you want that collaboration in your group, have kind of a facilitator to input answers, and then the other kids can have a PDF. And I can show you how to do that PDF. It's really easy. So Jeannie put the link. The last thing I'm going to drop into the chat right now is the answers to the escape room. It is multiplying integers is what the topic is, but I really don't want you guys to focus too much on figuring out the answers. I'd rather you to have a chance sorry, I'm doing too many things at one time, to actually experience the escape room. So if you don't want the answers and you want to do the math yourself, close your chat so you don't see them. If you want the answers, you can copy and paste them now or link them here. And then if you want to go ahead and go back the same way you did with Jeannie's group, go back to your breakout rooms, open it up and just kind of talk through and experience the escape room for yourself. Again, we'll come back in 8 minutes. So that would be 1:22. We'll come back and kind of share out some of your experiences with the escape room.
Teresa, real quick in the chat, can you take a look at the blank template and make sure that they have either copy access or editing access to do that?
I will do that right now.
Also, I don't know if you saw the question in the chat, what is the objective of this? So maybe you can hit on that when they come back.
Yep. All right, if you guys want to go ahead and wind down your group conversations and come back to the main room. Made it back just in time. Internet issues kicking me off. So just some things to think about with regards to the escape room. The purpose or why I might implement this in my classroom is just a different way to present a lesson that adds a little bit of something that kids are interested in and maybe a little more buy-in to them. I will tell you that, to be honest, the first time you create one of these, it's going to be a little bit of a time commitment. But now that my template is done and I've worked through it, it will get like substantially faster with each one you create. The hardest part for me was creating the storyline as opposed to the math problems and creating the questions. The logistics of it was easy. It was that storyline that threw me a little bit for a loop and what to include and what not to include. So any thoughts? Either unmute yourself, just maybe one or two share outs about what you liked, the challenges you see in this, how it might work in your classroom, either in the chat or unmuting before we move to our last resource.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we know if students have the ability to create their own Google Forms? Do they have access to that?
That would be a good question that we would probably have to throw out to all of you, being as I don't have a group of students that I'm working with. Does anybody know whether the kids have that? I would imagine that they should.
Because I was thinking a cool final project to have them create their own escape room with their own storyline. Then you would give them like a rubric to follow. So that's something I might do a little more research on, because I could see this being a cool tool for the kids.
That's a great idea. I love that idea. Anytime you can get the kids involved in that. And then someone said in the group, someone suggested as a staff builder, as a team builder or a staff builder for a staff at the school. And you can find these online. If you want ideas or the storylines are a little bit of a struggle, if you just Google escape rooms, they are everywhere online. Some are free, some you pay for, but you can get ideas of different ways to look or different storylines. So we have one last tool we're going to share with you in our time, and I'm going to turn that over to Miss Carla.
I almost started talking before unmuting. I'll bet none of you have done that, right? Good. All right, the last resource. You can flip slides for me, Jean. Yep, wait time. That's awesome. That's the one. So this might be a resource that you guys are already familiar with. You might already be using it, and that's awesome. So you can bring all of your ideas to us as well. It's called Whiteboard.fi, and essentially it's just putting an electronic whiteboard in the hands of the students and the teacher to share their thinking and share their work. And I think it's a great resource for math, especially because there's so much showing that we want kids to do, but also that justification piece. Remembering the mathematical practices are not gone just because we're on online learning, but this is a great opportunity for you to allow your students to justify their reasoning. So just the basics of Whiteboard.fi. First of all, it's free. We love free. There's not a premium version that you have to pay $50 for and you only get a few of the functions in the free version. It's free, free, free. No accounts are needed. You don't have to give them your email. You just go to the website and you start a class. It's that easy. The other thing is that they are, as far as I can tell, they're frequently updating this website app. And that's nice because people are making suggestions of what to add to it. And they're actually listening to the voices out there and making it better day by day. I think the last update was September 29th. So how is it different from Jamboard? Because I'm not super familiar with Jamboard, how about somebody tell us that after we play around with it? We're going to play around with this, and then when we come back, someone who is familiar with Jamboard can maybe tell us, is it the same? Is it different? Some of the basics here. Teacher can see all the student whiteboards, and I'll be showing you that after we play around with it for a little bit. And of course, the teacher can see their whiteboard. Students can see the teacher's whiteboard and only their own whiteboard. If the teacher wants to share student work, they can copy student work and share it through their own whiteboard. Students can download and save their whiteboard. So this would be probably very nice if you wanted students to be working in some type of interactive notebook, or just saving their work for a notebook that you're going to collect at some point. The teacher can download and save all the student boards as a PDF, which I found really cool, because then maybe you can send it out to all your students and have them do some error analysis, pick out which of the solutions have errors in them, something like that. I'm sure you guys can think of a million other ways to use that as well, but I thought that was a nice feature. Okay, next slide. We're just going to go ahead and try it out. I'm going to drop in the chat in just a second. I'm going to drop in the chat the link to get to the whiteboard. Now, we're not going to breakout rooms, so don't go there. You're just going to click on this link. It's going to take you to my classroom whiteboard, and I will go there as well, and I will see your name start popping up at the bottom. Again, in a little bit, I'll show you my view from the teacher side, so you can kind of get an idea of both sides. First, you're going to start in student mode. On my whiteboard, there is a problem to work. Before you start working on that problem, though, I just want you to familiarize yourself with the site. There's some tools in the upper left corner, and just kind of go through those and see everything that's available to you. Maybe draw some random pictures or something, and then after that time, then we'll get started on the map. So here is the link. Just click on that link, or if you already went to whiteboard.fi, then the room code is D9AP7, the last part of that. So I see Ryan, Rihanna, Mel, Renelle, pardon me if I pronounce your name wrong, Christy, Loretta, Dana, David. Awesome. Again, as you're entering into the whiteboard, just take a look at the tools at the top. You should be able to toggle my whiteboard as well, so you can see the problem. Don't work on it yet. But yeah, across the top, the pencil tool, rectangle, circle. Just do a little drawing on there. Maybe find the emojis. Yes, Christy found the background, the grid background. There's two different sizes of that. Ashley shows us the other one. Nice. Rihanna, 4+1. Oh, 13 squared or 3 squared. Nice. Aha. For musicians, you have that background. Nice. Maybe he's drawing a calculator, I think. Very nice. And again, I will be showing or presenting my view in the Google Meet in a bit, but first we'll just get started. Aha, Barbara found where you can enter a mathematical equation with function notation. Nice. Emojis, yeah. I don't know if that's scared face and sad face. Oh no. Okay. Mel popped one in there as well. Heart emoji face. All right. Very good. So the next thing I want you guys to find is where you can erase your own board. So can you find where you can erase your whole board? There is an eraser tool, but for some that would take a while, but you can just erase your whole board. If we could everybody clear their boards. Nice. Okay, so now you should be able to see, again, my whiteboard, and the problem at the top says, think about the answer to 18 times 5. And it says to show your thinking and solution on your whiteboard. But I want you to do this from the perspective of you're having to do this with mental math. You don't have a pencil and paper next to you. You're out at a store or somewhere, and you have to do 18 times 5. So I want you obviously to be doing mental math, but something that you can do in your head and come to the solution. So now go ahead and start thinking about that, and then you're going to write down on your whiteboard how you accomplished the multiplication of 18 times 5. Just giving you time to work. So the boards are filling up. If we could just do one more thing, when you feel like you've come to all the writing you're going to do on your whiteboard, when you've finished working through, if you could find a little emoji up there and pop it on your board, that way I will know from my view that you're finished with your work. Thank you. See them coming up. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Meet and share this part of my screen so you can see it. Okay. Again, if you're finished with your work, go ahead and pop an emoji on your screen. You should be able to see what I'm seeing now on the Google Meet window, where we've got, it looks like about 24 boards up there. And you can see they're large enough to be able to distinguish the work that's on them, even though there's quite a few boards there. All right. Looks like, if Sal, are you finished? If you are, could you pop an emoji on your work? If not, keep working by all means. Okay. Just checking for questions here. All right. Yes, the question, can these be presented anonymously? Let me show you that on my board where you can do that. In the top of my screen, you see this gear, and there's several choices. That's where you save all whiteboards as a PDF, but there's also one that says hide student names. So that can be very helpful. There's times to use that and times not to use that. So that's going to be up to your discretion. I'm going to come back down here. Is there anyone who'd like to share their thinking? And I'll then show you how to copy someone's board to my board and share it with the whole class. Is there anyone who'd like to unmute and allow me to share their board, and then they can explain their thinking?
You can share my board. This is Maggie.
Maggie, wonderful. So you can see actions, copy to teacher whiteboard. Close that window. Before I did that, I had to, well, I just overrode mine, so that's fine. Okay, Maggie, go ahead and explain your thinking on this.
Okay, so 18 is kind of a weird number, so I broke it up into two numbers I felt more comfortable with, and multiples of 5 have always been easy for me, so I did 5 times 10, and that gave me 50, and then I did 5 times 8 because 10 plus 8 would be 18, and that gave me 40, and then I just had to add those two numbers together to get 90.
Very nice. Do you mind if I make a visual representation of your thinking?
Of course not.
So I can draw on this board. And as you guys are doing, using the pencil tool, we'll represent that side as 5. And so what was 18, you broke up into 10 and 8. This is a little hard to navigate. I'm on a trackpad, but it works. 10 times 8, split it up to 50 and 40. So you made the problem more manageable for yourself. Okay. Is there anybody else's work who maybe took a different approach that I could share? Anybody willing to let me show their work? No volunteers. Okay, well, I don't like sharing things that people don't agree to let me share, so I won't. If I'll stop presenting on this and go back to the slideshow. I bumped Jeannie out there. Waiting. Do, 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 do. There we go. Wonderful. So now that you've had a chance to play with it a little bit, I know it wasn't a long amount of time, but maybe you could share 1 or 2 ideas you have for how you might use this with your students. You can either put those in the chat or unmute yourself and go ahead and just talk out.
I teach US history, and I was thinking we've got an assessment coming up, and maybe they could each have a board and take one chunk of something from the assessment and make a visual representation, put some text in it, and then share all those out. That'd be cool.
Very nice. And Loretta asked in the chat, did Maggie type her numbers out instead of writing them? Yes, there is a text tool. So you can create a text box and you can type as normal typing. Work for a review for non-math classes. Teresa explained the text tool there. An out the door problem, like an exit ticket. It's great for things like that. All right, as we're winding down, we only have 5 minutes left in the session. So let me go to the next slide and just talk about a little bit of the functionality. The site itself says, try to keep the number of participants under 50, and that's really just for the number of whiteboards you would have on your screen. It actually can have more people on it, but I imagine the whiteboards would get really tiny and you wouldn't really be able to see them too well. Again, we talked about the option to hide student names. Make sure you give time for your students to play with the whiteboard tools before you ask them to work a problem, especially a math problem or something that's going to require some intense thinking. Once you give them a problem, make sure you give enough time for students to do the work, show their work, and complete the problem. The teacher can close the room as like shut it down, shut it out, or if you just leave it sit for a couple hours, it will expire. The link will expire and then it won't even exist anymore. So if you wanted to do this with multiple classes, you could have different classroom codes, just like Google classes. You know, it's all about the codes. Finally, you do have the option to clear all student boards all at once. So if you were moving from one problem to the next, you might want to clear everybody's board and start anew. You can clear individual student boards. If you have a student who's drawing something that they probably shouldn't be drawing, the nice thing is they're the only ones that can see their board and you. So it's not like the rest of the class is seeing it. Or you can remove students completely from the room. So that pretty much brings us to the end here. Leaves us about 5 minutes for a session debrief. And I'll turn that over to Teresa.
All right. So in our last 3 minutes before our afternoon session is over. We would just like to hear out from you guys how these resources that we shared with you today will be useful to you in your classroom, what ideas are running through your head. I know we've touched on some of them and we've heard some great insights from some people. Jeannie's got the Menti up here and you can see at the top of it, if you go to menti.com, it also has the code at the top of that white slide. And just kind of hear different ways. We love, like I just saw somebody say they could use the whiteboards for brainstorming for an essay. We love to hear from all contents and all grade levels to share out. So if it's something we're not thinking about, maybe we will after you share out. So how can you use these tools or resources in your classroom? And you can just unmute or put it in the chat, or we've got the Menti going, whichever one's the easiest for you. I know we're like, our minds are probably half already on fall break, right? Thank you. We had one pop up in the Menti that just says it's always good to have new tools to spice things up and do things differently. Script writing lessons. Oh, they're coming in. They're coming in. Nice. That one just says gathering ideas to share with staff. Certainly ideas you could share staff, and that was kind of one of our main purposes, was to make sure it was something that could be shared across, not just for math or not just for a specific content, but things that were open and available to lots of content and lots of grade levels. So we hope we achieved that goal here today. Music classes. I think we had a couple of people this morning too who were talking about the whiteboard with music classes and the usefulness that it would have in those. Formative assessments and exit tickets for the whiteboards. Very nice. Escape room for US history. Lots of ideas coming up. Awesome. We thank you guys so much for participating. Jeannie, with the time left, if you want to go ahead and put our contact information slide up there, so everybody will have that. We are broken out into zones, but we also work with the TLF directly. So if you guys have questions about anything presented today, and you can remember one email and not the other, just shoot it to one of us and we will make sure that your questions get answered, resources get shared, however we can do that. And I think, I can't speak for my colleagues, but I'm able to stay on for a few more minutes if there's any individual questions that you'd like to ask before you log off. And if not, you guys have a wonderful fall break. Please do something for yourselves and don't work too hard, because you need to decompress a little bit. I know it's been a really rough school year, but we appreciate all your hard work and everything you guys are doing. So keep up the good work and enjoy your break. Thank you all for being here. Jeannie, did you see that comment about creating a PDF of the Menti and sharing it? So we have all their emails in our.
I did not see that, but I did include a link in the chat that actually takes them to the live results that they can view at any time.
Okay.
So I could actually just add that link to the slide deck underneath the Menti so that they can check that out through the slide deck.
That'll be good.
Jeannie, is our next session on this Meet code, or is it a different one?
It is different.
We gotta, yeah, we have another Meet in 15.
12.
11, 10, 9. More meetings, more meetings.
Busy today.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. Good job, ladies.
Good job. Good job, ladies.
We'll debrief whenever.
Yeah. Probably Monday. We can do it during math, right?
Perfect.
I mean, we all
But-
saw each other's sessions or pieces and parts of them and offered
Right.
feedback, so we can share a little bit more and call it good.
Sounds awesome. All right, it's been real. You guys are awesome to
Enjoy
work
your-
with.
Enjoy your next session.
Carla.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Enjoy your fall break.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay, thank you.